used to do. How like TK would get pissed when he'd see you lifting, and so yeah, tell the people.
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm a little bit different in Carrie. That in high school I played all the sports. I was a much better basketball player coming out of high school. I was not even the best baseball player on my high school team, and it still bothers me to this day that I didn't win MVP my senior year. It pisses me off. But anyway, I was I was a small guy, 5'9", 5'10". I loved to play basketball games, but I hated basketball practice. So I had some D2 opportunities in basketball, but I knew in my heart that if I went that route, I wouldn't be a very good player because I didn't like to practice. Whereas baseball, I mean, I would love to take 100 ground balls a day, take 100 swings a day, have my dad throw BP as much as his arm could handle. So I knew baseball was my passion. But I was, frankly, guys, just an average high school baseball player, which, I think I can relate a lot to the high school players today who are trying to get to the next level, but, they're average right now. No one really gives them a chance. They've got this dream. They've got this passion. And frankly, the only guy that ever thought that I was going to play at professional level was me. My mom, my dad thought I was absolutely nuts. Every player, every coach that I ever played for thought I was an absolute joke to even think about that. I had an opportunity to go to the Naval Academy, and my reason why not going to the Naval Academy is I told my father because I'm going to go play pro baseball, and he had a conniption. He absolutely lost it on me. So he didn't talk to me for about 30 days. He goes, "You're turning down a free education with a guaranteed job when it's all said and done to do what?" I says, "I'm going to play professional baseball." He goes, "You're the only guy with that dream who actually believes it." So that was my mindset. So when I talk to young players today, I'm not here to, break up anybody's dream. I really believe it. If you got that mindset, really doesn't matter what other people think. You have no idea what your ceiling is. And I'm the only one really thought that I was going to get to where I wanted to go. Now, I knew I wasn't going to be easy. I went to Columbia University in New York, and the reason why I went there, because it was only an hour from my house. And I wanted my parents to go watch me play. And the coach was relatively new there. He was only there 2 years, I believe. And when he came into my recruiting session, he just said, "Listen, I'm going to try to revamp our whole team. It's a great opportunity to play 4 years, especially as a freshman, if you show me what you can do in the fall." So I wanted to play right away. I didn't want to sit on the bench. And I knew I was going to get a great education at Columbia. So that's why I went that route. And just like Carrie, I was, if you had seen me walk onto campus at Columbia, you'd think I was a tennis player. I was so skinny. I had no muscle tone, no nothing. So, but I had good hands and I could throw the ball a little bit. And, I put the ball in play. I didn't have a lot of power, but I put the ball in play. I had very good hand-eye coordination. I very rarely struck out. And as a freshman, you just want to show to the coach that you can play right away. And he had an open spot at third base, and he put me right there for the first game of my college career, and I never missed a game. But I first got, a passion about lifting when I went into the Columbia gym as a freshman. I couldn't lift the bar off the thing for 10 reps. That's how weak I was. I never had touched a weight, very rarely did push-ups, rarely did anything as far as body weight type stuff. But the weight room intrigued me. They had Nautilus equipment at that time, way back when, and I kind of lived in the weight room. And I went in there when no one was there. I was so embarrassed how weak I was. I would go in real early in the morning or real late at night where there might be one or two people in there. And I just kept putting weight on, and got stronger and stronger. By the time I was a junior in college, I had the ability to hit for some power. And then when I was a senior, I hit 19 home runs in 40 games, which is, for me, for a guy who hit 2 or 3 a year, and then all of a sudden I hit 19. Everybody was talking about I was on the juice, which wasn't around back then. So I can honestly say it wasn't the juice. I got it for it. But,
it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment. Yeah, but I got stronger, and I got one of those mindsets that I just love being in the gym. And back then, lifting wasn't even thought of. It was all football players who were going to lift. But as far as baseball players, it's, you're going to get tight. You're not going to be able to throw the ball. You're not going to be able to rotate your hip, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard that nonsense. And I just kind of fought against that attitude and got as strong as I could. And fortunately for me, after my senior year, the Twins drafted me in the 20th round. And, we all know if we're in the industry, if you're drafted in the 20th round, you're not a highly touted prospect. And I tell kids today, when you're drafted in the 20th round, you're basically drafted to fill up a roster spot. so that a team could be formed for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth round guys can have a team to play for. So but I'm a very big goal setter. There used to be a publication called The Sporting News back when I was a kid, and they all had minor league stats. And what I did was I wrote down the name of I played first base. They moved me to first base from third base as a professional. The Twins did. And I wrote down every first baseman's name at every level. And they put me at rookie ball. So there was one rookie ball team. There were 2 A-ball teams, a AA and a AAA before you got to the big league. So I put down all the minor league first basemen's names. And every time I played against them in spring training, I would cross his name off because I said I'm going to be able to beat him. And I got to AAA, crossed that name off. And then in 1987, when the Twins brought me up in May, I literally was the first. Actually, I should take that back. It was in spring training that he says my first big league spring training. I walked in spring training. I met Kirby Puckett, Ken Herbeck. Walked on the field at first base with Ken Herbeck. Watched him take about 10 ground balls. Took about a round of BP. And I called my dad right after my first big league workout, and I said, "Dad, that name will not be crossed off right there. I will not pick that guy up." I knew that 5 minutes into my first big league camp day. He's just he was a phenomenal player, a terrific guy. But I knew then that I could work my tail off, but I was never going to get to that level. But that didn't mean that I wasn't going to try to, be the best I could be. And frankly, I fought for my life every camp. It was the 24th or 25th guy. Occasionally it might be the 22nd or 23rd, but there was no situation where I was going to not work hard in the off season because I was guaranteed an opportunity to play next year. I'd never had that ability. I was always felt like I was fighting the fight, had the chip on my shoulder, didn't hit enough for power, wasn't fast enough, had all the mindset that I knew what people thought I couldn't do, and I was just going to try to overcome that. When I started living in Minnesota full time, I used to go to the University of Minnesota with a strength coach called Bob Rohde, who kind of started me with different weightlifting programs, a little bit more deadlifts, more leg stuff, and I kind of picked his brain a little bit. But you're right, Cass. We've had a number of guys who would go to the U during that time. Coach Tom Kelly would come in there. He was a great guy as far as trying to keep himself in shape, and I always felt uncomfortable being in the weight room with him because I thought that he kind of had that mindset that that's really not necessary to do. But for me, I felt that I had to do it. I had to outwork everybody else to keep my 24th or 25th spot on the roster. So I was very fortunate to come along at the right time with the right team. I say I worked very, very hard for what I accomplished, but I also was very, very lucky. Too. I was in the right spot at the right time. I was with an organization that kind of needed someone like me, pretty versatile, played a little outfield, played a little first base, designated hitter for the most part when I first called up. And I feel very fortunate that I learned a lot from the guys who were very, very good. Our best players were our hardest workers. So for me, I always felt like, at the 24th or 25th man, how can I not bust my butt in practice? So I try to utilize that mentality when I instruct kids. And my goal always is whatever team you're going to coach, if you can try to instill to each player that if you try to be the hardest working guy in practice, and we've got 12 or 15 guys on a team, if each guy has that attitude, you're going to probably have a pretty successful season. I'm not even talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about just being around a great group of guys who want to get to their ceiling. Now, I think for us, we know what got us to a certain point, and we also know the mistakes that we made. For me, as an instructor, it's also verbalizing the mistakes that we made so that the younger players who are taught by us understand that just because we got to a certain level doesn't mean it was an easy road to get there. And if they can understand the mistakes we made and try to avoid the same pitfalls, then we as coaches are doing a terrific job, not only enhancing their abilities mechanically or mentally, but also telling them, this is not going to be an easy road, and it's going to take a great deal of sacrifice, a tremendous amount of sacrifice. And when I use the word sacrifice, I think people think it's just a word, but you really got to give up a few things in life if you really want to be the athlete or the ball player you want to be. I tell kids all the time, the only thing that shouldn't suffer, in my opinion, if you really want to be a great athlete, is your academics. That always should take the forefront. And then if you're a faith-driven guy, actually, take that very, very seriously. But your friendships are going to suffer a little bit too. Your buddies want to go out on a Friday or Saturday night, hit the town a little bit. and then you've got an 8 o'clock in the morning workout the next day, well, guess what? If you want to hit the town the night before, your workout's not going to be as good. So that's just kind of one little item that I tell kids. It is a huge sacrifice, and the word is used a lot, but I don't think people really realize how much of a sacrifice it is, because we see the finished product on TV quite a bit, but everybody's got their own story and their own journey and how they got there. And some have very few guys had enough ability where they can just cakewalk it to the big leagues. Most guys had to bust their butt, where a lot of things were sacrificed to get to that particular point in time in their life.